Individuals who have walked the halls of our esteemed institution, that is Center for Social Medicine and Community Health, carrying with us memories, experiences, and a shared sense of pride. It is truly remarkable to see familiar faces and reconnect with fellow alumni, some of whom we may not have seen in years. Our alumni community is a testament to the enduring impact of our alma mater, and the bonds that we have formed during our time here continue to strengthen and flourish long after we have left its wall. As we reflect on our past, we also look to the future with a sense of anticipation and enthusiasm. Our alumni have gone on to achieve remarkable feats in various fields, making significant contributions to their respective industries and communities. We take pride in their accomplishment, and we are eager to hear about your success, challenges, and aspirations during our time together. This alumni meeting presents a unique opportunity for us to reconnect, reminisce, and forge new connections. It is time to renew old friendships, kindle new ones, and foster a spirit of camaraderie that has always been a hallmark of our alma mater. I hope we'll be able to carry forward this spirit in future too and engage in conferences, discussions, workshops that will strengthen our vision for social change and better public health. Our alma mater have been a cornerstone of our personal and professional development, and we are grateful for the enduring impact it has on our lives. As we alumni, we hope the responsibility to give back and contribute to the continued success of our institution, ensuring that future generations of students receive the same opportunities that were offered to us. Once again, I extend a warm welcome to each and every one of you, and I'm eagerly looking forward to an engaging, memorable alumni meeting. Let us come together to celebrate our shared heritage, renew old acquaintances, and create new memories that will last a lifetime. Thank you for being a part of this memorable event organized by the alumni and the center. I would like to call upon the stage Professor Sangamitra Acharya, Professor Rama Baru, Professor Imrana Kadir, Professor S.K. Sapori, Professor Arun Kumar, I would also like to call upon the stage Professor Srinath Reddy,
May I request Professor Ritu Priya and Professor Rama Baru to join the dignitaries on the dais?
Now I hand over to the chair, Professor Sangamitra Acharya, to welcome our eminent guests.
A very good morning to the very august house present here and those of us online. I take this opportunity to welcome the dignitaries on the dais. Professor S.K. Sopori, not a new name for us, former Vice Chancellor and a very, very eminent scientist. Thank you, sir, for joining us this morning. I also welcome Professor Arun Kumar, very renowned economist, and we know him, all that we learn about Black economy, we learn from his works. Thank you so much, Professor Arun Kumar, for joining us this morning. Professor Srinath Reddy certainly is not a new name for us, those of us who work in the field of public health. Thank you so much, Professor Reddy, for joining us. I also welcome my colleagues, Professor Ritupriya and Professor Ramabaru, for joining us this morning on the stage along with the dignitaries. I really have a difficult task to welcome Professor Imrana Kadir and Professor Banerjee, the founding members of the center. I fail to have adequate words to be able to welcome these two persons, without whom I'm sure we'll all agree the center wouldn't have shaped the way it has shaped itself. Thank you so much, Professor Kadir, for joining us. Thank you so much, Professor Banerjee. I hope you're connected with us online. I take this opportunity to welcome all the alumni, the current students who have remained connected with the center in whichever possible way for all the times which we've been here in the center. Thank you, all of you. I really find myself at the loss of the words in welcoming the gathering today, which is present in person, as well as those who have been connected online. This certainly is an event to cherish, to relish as we complete 50 years of the existence as a center which is unique in the parlance of the university, which is also unique in the field of public health. And I'm sure we know that this was only possible because of the founding members of the center, of those who made those efforts to be able to make the center happen. It's been a journey of passion and grit, perseverance and diligence of perhaps one crusader and his compatriots who worked together locating the center in the School of Social Sciences outside the biomedical domain. I am sure we can imagine the resistance this endeavor would have encountered from the then fraternity. And I'm sure you know I'm referring to the doyen of public health, Professor D. Banerjee. His relentless endeavor resonates with, I'm quite tempted to borrow from the Tagore's verses, Jodi tor dak shune keu na ashe tobe ekla cholo re. I'm sure at that time he was all by himself. making all efforts to locate this center where he wanted to locate for a very, very specific reason. He was determined to materialize his dream. And I'm again tempted to borrow from yet another poet from Urdu literature. मैं अकेला ही चला था जानिबे मंजिल मगर लोग साथ आते गए और कारवां बनता गया. Thank you so much, Professor Banerjee. Today, I'm sure this caravan is fairly big and diversified. I'm extremely grateful to the founders of the university to have chosen this day as the foundation for CSMCH. Very aptly, if I may say so, this day also commemorates the eve of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's birth anniversary. He, who's known to be a scholar of great stature, evident from his works from the field of economics, political science, law, and many others. In fact, it was through his Mahatank movement, I'm sure we are familiar with, which is popularly known as a movement for accessing water, and also perhaps more popularly known as Mahat Satyagraha, for ensuring that drinking water is made available to all. To my mind, this was a movement not only for what is popularly considered as a movement for identity of caste, identity of making sure that oppressions are addressed. It was also his understanding for the need of safe drinking water to be made available for everybody. And perhaps this is a pointer towards the concern he had regarding public health, his interest that he had in public health. Subsequently, in April 1944, as a member of Mica Mine Council, he studied the mica mine workers in Koderma and the condition of laborers working in those mines. And it was his efforts, I'm sure we are familiar with, that the contentions, the need to address how the living conditions of the workers are, becomes important in ensuring that the employers, the state, for example, is responsible for the quality of life that the workers are supposed to be enjoying. Later on the recommendation of Ambedkar, we do see that a labor welfare fund was created. Public health, as we know, aims for the state to become responsible. It was the initiatives right then made by the scholar of his stature, the person concerned of his stature, that we see working hours, which were reduced from 10 to 8. There were provisions made for maternity leave, and also, I think it is, to my mind, a very, very apt day to celebrate the foundation day of the center, which has taken pride in its mission of equality and social justice, and has been instrumental in enabling that shift from biomedical to biopsychosocial framework to understand health of the people. Today, it stands out in its identity across the globe. I once again welcome all of you, and I thank you for connecting, joining us today for this occasion. Thank you very much. I still have a job to do. As I started by saying that the center owes a lot to its founders, we take this opportunity to remember them for their work, and in doing so, we wish to felicitate them. If we talk about Professor Banerjee, I'm sure we wouldn't refrain from considering him as the person who has brought public health, who has given a different kind of dimension to public health vis-a-vis the center in which he located his ideas related to public health. Through his work done during early 2000s, while discussing the people and the health services in India, he drew from scholars such as Virchow, Mahler, and B.C. Roy to argue that health is politics and politics is health, if people mattered. When he critiqued the report of the WHO Commission on Macroeconomics and Health, in February 2002, he pointed out that the World Health Organization at least was able to draw some kind of interest in some of the world's top economists in joining the commission. As he wrote a simplistic approach to health policy analysis, he also made some very critical observations on the World Bank report on health sector in India, which seemingly offered an alternative policy framework too. His work is immense. We can go on and on to talk about them. But I really wish to point out at this moment for us, he had been instrumental in developing a number of programs that the country today boasts of. Country today has managed to address some of the very, very concerning issues pertaining to the health of the people. Having trained as a physician and as an anthropologist subsequently, his concern for indigenous medicine came naturally to him, I'm sure. In his work titled The Place of Indigenous and Western Systems of Medicine in Health Services of India, written way back in 1981, he preferred to use the terms indigenous systems of medicine to traditional medicine and Western system of medicine to modern medicine. He pointed out by this the interrelationship of these two categories, which remain a function of the interplay of social, economic, and political forces in the community. This was the genesis of his belief that health is politics and politics is health. And therefore, for the 50-year celebration of the center, I'm sure we would not have had anything better than this to move ahead with this. Professor Banerjee created this center with his colleagues, the then colleagues, who, of course, the other founder member that we have here, Amritsar's Professor Imran Kadir. We also had Professor P. Ramalingam Swamy, a social psychologist who was part of the center in its initial days. The foundation stone of the center was laid down by these stalwarts who led to the robust academic content of the center. Over the next decades, as the center grew, we see Dr. Binayak Sen, another pediatrician, joining the center. We had Professor Dipankar Gupta, we had Dr. S.K. Sahu. All of these worked together under the stewardship of Professor Banerjee. The foundation of diversity, which the center today has and feels great about, certainly was evolving during that period. The subsequent generation of scholars from diverse backgrounds added to the interdisciplinary mix under the stewardship of Professor Banerjee, of the stewardship of Professor Imran Kadir. Legacy continued, and we had subsequent scholars who joined the center, Kesava Rajashekhar Nair, whose work in the social determinants of health, Mohan Rao is known for his political economy of health, Rama Baru's work for privatization, Ritupriya, a wide range of work from HIV to Ayush to operational research. All of this comes through under some kind of mentorship, under some kind of stewardship that we have from the founders. We had Professor Ghanshyam Shah, who joined the center around 2000s, and we see that the realms of urbanization and its linkages with public health become very, very overt with his work and with the courses that he introduced. We had Dr. Alpana Sagar with us. Unfortunately, we do not have her with us in a physical form, but I'm sure wherever she is, she's there with us. We had other scholars who joined the center through the 2000s and took the onus on them to take forward what the founders of the center took on. And I'm sure this would not have possible without the guidance that we had from Professor Banerjee and Professor Kadir. Professor Banerjee, thank you so much for being there. I am completely aware that because of your health conditions, you couldn't be with us in a physical form, but we do wish to show our love and gratitude to you by symbolically, or at least at the moment, virtually, presenting a small token of our love and affection. And for doing this, I would request Professor S.K. Sopori to do the honors, please. Like I said, Professor Sopori is somebody we are all very familiar with, a very eminent scholar, former vice chancellor who's taken the university to different directions. He is a scholar who has been, who has plenty of awards to his credit. The World Academy of Science, he's the recipient of many honors, including 87 Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Prize, even the Padma Shri in 2007. There are plenty. I'm sure I'll take a long time if I have to narrate all of them. Professor Banerjee, we are symbolically requesting Professor Sopori to give you a token of our affection to you. Thank you so much, Professor Sopori. The other founding member of the center, and I'm talking about Professor Imran Kadir. Thank you so much, Professor Sopori. Professor Kadir, I'm sure, is somebody who we all love to engage with, academically and even otherwise. Ma'am, thank you so much for guiding us through all these years, and we look forward to being with you in all possible forms. The legacy of the 70s continues in the prolific writings of Professor Imran Kadir and those whom she has mentored. When the state was enamored by the universal health coverage, she undauntedly labeled it as the Trojan horse of neoliberal policies. Way back in 2013, and she questioned, was it really, what was that panacea and for whom was it? She had been actively engaged with the academic discourse, perhaps more after her superannuation, and we see her very important work on COVID almost all through the last recent years. She has been a mentor to many, and evidences are in the form of the encouragement she provides to the younger scholars to co-author the papers with her, and there are plenty of these evidences present. There are many more, I'm sure, who are outside the center too. Most of the scholars who've been mentored by her also happen to be within the center. We've all learned and we've all faltered and relearned about the health of the people from the makers of the center, Professor Kadir being one of the prominent ones, through all possible kind of interactions. Thank you so much, Professor Kadir, for being with us this morning in person and allowing us to show little love and affection, or rather so much of love and affection that we have, words aren't really enough to be able to express that. I would request Professor Arun Kumar to do the honors for Professor Kadir, please. Can I request the volunteers, please? Professor Arun Kumar, like I said earlier, is a well-known economist. Anything on Black economy couldn't be understood without the work that he's generated. Thank you so much, Professor Arun Kumar. Center, for sure, wouldn't have been what it is without Professor Kadir and Professor Banerjee. We will always remain indebted to you for being there, for guiding us in all possible ways, like I said. We really look forward to the deliberations through the day. And before I really close this session to usher in the next one, a couple of words on the colleagues who are on the other side of the dais. I'm sure the center's journey of the center since 70s, we have had a good number of people who've supported us beyond academics, the office, the documentation, the library. We've had the documentation and the technical staff comprising of Dr. Lakhan Singh and Mrs. M.D. Rastogi. We've had Mr. Dinesh Joshi, we've had Mr. Shivanand Sirsikar, Ms. Malobika Bhattacharya, Dr. Anil Gupta. I'm sure without Mr. Sirsikar, Ms. Malobika, and Dr. Anil Gupta, the fieldwork that the center has, one very important component of the teaching program, would really have not happened without their support. The office, no center can function without an office. The office has remained functional with the support of, that I can remember, I'm sure there could have been other people too. I recall Mrs. K.D. Bhatia, Shri Dharamrajji, Shri Brahmprakashji, Shrimati Jivanlata, Shri Satendra Rawat, Kumari Poonam, Abhayji, and Satishji. Without their support, center will be crippled completely. The alumni of the center have been very, very active and energetic about this event. Thank you so much, alumni. We are not only instrumental in organizing it, they've not been only instrumental in organizing this, but have also worked towards resurrecting the journal which the center had during the 2000s. And I'm sure that stays with you and you will take that forward. This was a journal where we had both Professor Banerjee and Professor Kadir as editors and advisors. I'm sure your efforts will bear the fruit. The young scholars, I couldn't forget you. Without your mention, I'm sure my responsibility wouldn't be complete. The young scholars of the current batches across the two programs that the center offers are eager to share their experiences on the field trip from where they returned very, very recently. I really urge you to watch this 3-minute clip, which probably is going to be screened during the breaks that we have. Your energy actually pushes us also to keep ourselves at par with you. Thank you very much for being there. Without you, I'm sure this event would not have been possible. Thank you once again. Thank you to those of us who are here physically present and those of us who are connected online. Thank you so much for being here with us. We look forward to the deliberations of the day. Okay. So I hope I have done some justice in expressing our love and affection towards the two stalwarts of the center. I would request, I would like to hear from those professors who are here with us on the dais, and we would want to make use of this opportunity to request Professor Supori, Professor Arun Kumar to speak a few words to us. Professor Supori, could I request you to initiate, please? And I understand Professor Srinath Reddy is going to be here with us in the next session, so I'm going to excuse him for this session.
Professor Banerjee, I came here, I thought I will get an opportunity to meet you in person, but it's so nice to even see you online and being part of this function. Professor Imran Qadir, whom also I had interacted many times when we were in the campus. I think this center came into existence somewhere in 1972. And I joined this university in March 1973. So my association with this university and with the colleagues around here has been also more than 50 years. amid watching this university and the center from inside and outside. Professor Thoret, again, couldn't see him in person now, but I understand he's online. Similarly, Professor Patricia Uberai, who had been of great help to us when I was recruiting people in this university, that she would come and help us in the selection committee. Professor Arun Kumar, of course, has been a colleague for a very, very long time. As somebody who said that we learned the whole black economy from his book. He once showed me that one. And also I had very personal interactions with him when he was the president of Januta, and I was then the vice chancellor. Very, very nice interactions which we had, and we learned from each other. Dr. Srinath Reddy, very nice to meet you. And all the faculty members of this center, all the students, alumni, staff, what a great pleasure that we are all present together on this occasion to celebrate the 50 years of the existence of this center. This center, as was already mentioned, has made tremendous contributions over the last 5 decades. And I got to know more about the output of this center, especially when I was at the School of Life Sciences. We never cared to too much know about what's happening in the other centers. We are very restricted to our laboratory and our experiments. But as Vice Chancellor, I got a great opportunity to interact with the faculty of this center, the students of this center, and learned how much work is being done in these places. And this center has really carried forward the vision of this place, which was, as was mentioned, Dr. Banerjee, Dr. Imran Qadir, who laid the vision of what this center should be doing. And the faculty, which came later on, and also the present faculty, they have actually played a very, very vital role in this center to bring a public health landscape of the country to the knowledge, the kind of knowledge which they have generated in this specific area. Their teaching programs are excellent. I was once again going through the website and found that they have innovated quite a few. And also the kind of publications which are coming up, especially during the COVID period. I didn't realize that time that they have published almost like 30, 40 papers during the COVID period and trying to work out different policies on this one. So the kind of teaching programs, the research, the cutting edge research which this department has been doing, along with the policy interventions, things which different papers which they have brought out, has really brought this center as one of the best to me in the university system in this country. And they have taken these community-based approaches to healthcare, and these kinds of linkage which they have with what is really happening at the basic level. It's not only the academics which they are doing the research, but linking it to the places where this is happening, linking it to the social areas where they are working is really particularly commendable. So they have really bridged this gap between academic research and real world challenges which we face together. Now, as you move ahead, and you have to build on the rich legacy which this center has given you, and also the lot of expectations which the society also has from this center. And in future, all the people here, the students, the faculty, will have to address the very complex challenges which is happening in the public health area, and rapidly changing some of these areas which are changing in this. Now, I have only 2 or 3 points which I need to mention, that in future, what we need to do is to interconnect much more vigorously with other domains of knowledge. To me, public health is also connected with, I'm basically a plant scientist, so connected with the nutrition on one hand, the agriculture health on the one side. So now health is a major word, buzzword which is happening in every area. They call agriculture health, the human health, and also the environmental health. So I think public health is now in the center of all these, unless the health of the environment, the health of the agriculture, the nutrition which we get, and health of the health areas, especially the new technologies which are coming up in the health sector. And these all need to be put in place, and therefore, I think the center must connect. They are already doing, I know there are a lot of work is being done. I saw one paper publication along with Ramesh Bamse, who was from School of Life Sciences. So those connections are already built up, but I think it's very important that we build up more stronger connections with other domains of knowledge. The other point which I have is that we should probably in this center also bring in the AI-based systems. How you can use artificial intelligence, machine learning tools to develop large databases which are now being available to us and generate precise models for specific areas, that if such a situation happens, what are the interventions which we need to do and what are the policy changes which we need to do. I think these new technologies, AI and ML, can be of great help in a public department, this public health department. And also we need to prepare these models for future diseases, just like for COVID you did, but it's expected that you may have different kinds of diseases spreading from different places, and therefore we have to be prepared for those also in terms of policy, in terms of what interventions, and how to really tackle those situations. So I think futuristic approach probably needs to be followed up. So I think with these small comments, I once again congratulate the faculty, the builders of this department, Professor Banerjee, Imran Qadir, all the faculty members, the students who have contributed vigorously in order to bring this center to one of the best, to create it as one of the best center in this country. Congratulations once again, all of you.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like to call upon Professor Rama Baru to felicitate Professor S.K. Sapori.
Thank you, Professor Baru. I would now request Professor Arun Kumar to say a few words to us. Thank you so much, sir.
Professor Banerjee, Professor Imran Qadir, Professor Sapori, Professor Srinath Reddy, distinguished faculty members, alumni, and students. It's indeed an honor to be here on the occasion of 50 years, completion of 50 years of this existence of this center. So I want to begin by congratulating the center, its faculty and students, both past and present, at the completion of this 50 years of its existence as an important part of the project that was JNU. The JNU was like a project. It has been true to the original design of JNU as an interdisciplinary center. JNU was supposed to be interdisciplinary, but I think very few centers are truly interdisciplinary. I think CSMCH was one such center. And much credit goes to the founding faculty, Professor Banerjee, Professor Imran Qadir, for what they have created in this university. The curriculum not just treats preventive and social medicine as an aspect of medicine, but one requiring political, socio-economic understanding and analysis. So that's the broad base on the basis of which the center has been functioning, its curriculum and its pedagogy. Health and disease are not only individual issues. Practice of medicine to deal with them and make society healthy is a societal issue, requiring appropriate social and economic interventions. And I think that's the basis on which things are worked out in the center. This became amply clear during the COVID-19 pandemic, and as Professor Sapori has already pointed out, large amount of research came out at that time, helping Indian society to cope with this crisis. Various countries floundered and individuals suffered till society worked out an appropriate response to it. The research done in the center and the understanding of the wider aspects of health were much in demand during the pandemic. The existence of the center became very relevant in that period. The alternative and traditional systems of health have found a place in the work of the center. This became possible only due to the openness in the framework adopted at the center. Otherwise, it would have been very narrowly conceived. Unfortunately, in the present context of narrow specializations, most academics lack the scope of keeping their framework open to be able to address the societal and the social diversity and the complexity. Often, one is swayed by the current dominant themes emerging from the West, and happily, we accept to be derived intellectuals recycling the framework from abroad. There is an attempt to mathematize various social science disciplines. This often limits the analysis and leads to incorrect policy prescriptions. CSMCH cannot be accused of this common malaise in social sciences. It has found a different path altogether. These are also times where marketization dominates. It has led to the penetration of market principles into various social institutions and impacted the thinking of people at large. Markets have been introduced where they did not exist, and needs artificially created through high-pressure advertising. The result has been growing commercialization, rising disparities, consumerism, destruction of the environment, and extreme weather phenomenon pointing to climate change. The health implications are quite obvious of all that's going on. New viruses have been emerging every few years, with SARS-CoV-2 the 7th new virus since 2000. The center's work reflects the need to face these challenges. The earlier work on AIDS and now on COVID-19 point to the importance of the work done in the center and how the framework adopted remains important and valid. This is in large measure due to the interdisciplinarity adopted and engagement with the people and the policymakers. I have been a small part of this endeavor since I have been invited to give lectures on the evolution of the Indian economy and as a part of various conferences held in the center. So interdisciplinary does not mean just having different disciplines being taught, but bringing the disciplines into each other. And that, I think, has been done fairly successfully in the center. I wish the center the best and hope that it continues to guide society by evolving socially relevant knowledge, and thereby it rises to greater heights in the coming times. Thank you very much.
I would like to call upon Professor Ritupriya to felicitate Professor Arun Kumar.
Thank you so much, Professor Arun Kumar. Ma'am, you can't escape not talking to us. I know you've been speaking to us, but this again is an occasion where we would love to hear from you. Professor Imran Kadir, please.
Honestly, I don't know what to say, except for saying thank you. Thank you very much to those on the stage and to those watching us on online and to all of you. I know today is the day of praises. So you all have been very generous. And I don't want to spoil that mood. So let me say, what made us what we are? And I really believe that my contribution to the center was because I was completely ignorant of public health when I joined this center. I was rooted in pediatrics. I loved pediatrics. And to be honest, I missed my little kids in the initial period when my colleagues helped by bringing all their babies to my 2 rooms in the JNU residence. So, I think what I'm trying to say is that it is not that I came with a huge amount of knowledge and, was the founder like Professor Banerjee. No. There was a lot of distance between his knowledge and experience and me. So our methods of contribution were very different. And my method of contribution was learning with all of you, learning with the senior students at that point of time, because they were partners in building this center. Just imagine, just 3 faculty members and maybe 3, 4 PhD students, and that's how we started. So the lessons to me is that the strength of JNU, and all credit goes to the structures provided by this university. It was so open and it was so trusting, and it gave us the strength to do as we like. And 2 principles that guided us was that the center was mandated to make public health relevant for the people of this country. And when I say people, I don't mean the people to whom public health caters today, but the people about whom Gandhi talked. And the other thing was that the university believed in the unity of knowledge, and therefore all centers were expected to work in an interdisciplinary fashion. I think we were able to contribute towards taking public health in this direction because we were problem-oriented. You see, it's very interesting, and it's my life experience. When you have people coming from a certain discipline and working, they look at health as an area of application. So they will apply their discipline according to their convenience. We were saying that no, we want social science to address the problems of community health. So working for a problem is very different from working within disciplines, because each discipline then tries to take the priority of its disciplines and see what more can I get from others. Whereas when you have a problem to address, then the nature of work becomes very different. And I'm very grateful to all the colleagues in the School of Social Sciences and Life Sciences in helping us grow that way. I think the last thing that I would like to say is that public health, even though we all work as individuals, but public health is not the work of an individual. Unless and until you do away with your egos, your disciplinary egos, and your individualistic egos, and come together to make a team, it is only then that you become not only a good public health person, but also a good human being. So I wish the center all the best, and I hope that you will carry on the work that was started. And I promise I will continue to work, because I have taken the decision I have not sought any associations with institutions. I have not tried to, open an NGO or do anything. I'm in the margins, but I'm not just watching, because I believe GNU was an idea, and ideas grow in the margins, and I have the freedom to speak. I want to retain that freedom, and I wish all of you that freedom. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. You were always an inspiration. Thank you for taking us forward there. As I request Professor Banerjee to speak to us, I would also request the online team to be ready with Professor Patricia Oberoy's video clip after Professor Banerjee has spoken to us. Sir, sorry for keeping you waiting.
ପ୍ଲାନ୍ ରିଟାୟାରମେଣ୍ଟ କିନ୍ତୁ ମୁଁ ଏଥିରେ ପଇସାଟା ଆସିବ ଏଟା ହେଉଛି ଆମ ମାନେ ଇଏ ନମ୍ବରଟା ଗୋଟେ ପ୍ରାନ୍ ସେଥିରେ ଆକାଉଣ୍ଟ.
Why so much of disturbance? We want to listen to Professor Banerjee now. Sir, can you hear us?
Please could someone mute the speaker, please mute them. Thank you.
The online participants are requested to mute themselves if they're not speaking, please. Thank
I
you.
think host can also do it. Please do it.
Yeah, the host, please do that, because we have a very senior person going to speak to us. We don't want any disturbances. Sir, can you hear us? Professor Banerjee. Professor Banerjee. Okay. While Professor Banerjee kind of gets supported for the online coming together with us online, can I request Professor Patricia Oberoy's clip to be shown to us, please? Oh, she's coming online. Can you please bring her online? Can we bring her online, please? Okay, she's there. Professor Oberoy, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Well, thank you very much. It's a real pleasure and a great honor to have been asked to say a few words on the occasion of the inauguration of this event for the Golden Jubilee of the Center for Social Medicine and Community Health at JNU. It also happens to be an auspicious day in the North Indian calendar, Vaisakhi, and as in the lifespan of JNU and its social science faculties. I should say that I feel I'm here almost on false pretenses, because accepting my 8 years or so as faculty in the Center for the Study of Social Systems, Sociology, I myself have been very much a bit player and a rather distant observer of the activities of the Center for Social Medicine and Community Health over these 50 years. In fact, as I began to think about what I might say, I began to think that my only qualification, if at all, for speaking at this juncture, might be my own longevity. However, I have watched and admired the growth of the center and its flourishing over many years. And more importantly, I have appreciated and I continue to appreciate its unique vision and pioneering mandate. It was futuristic in conception, I believe, and it still is. The original vision has still to mature and to be preserved as a legacy. Now, academics of my generation, so many others have also admired this vision. And the independent thinking, great learning, scholarship, and social conscience of the faculty of the center and of the students, who many of whom have become faculty and professionals in their own right. First of all, my tribute to Professor Banerjee, an iconic figure who in his day, and still, I believe, put fear into the hearts of the high and mighty of established academic and administrative authority in this country and globally around the world. To Professor Imran Kadir, so soft-hearted and yet so hard-headed, and a real fighter for her beliefs, and as well, of course, as ever a picture of elegance wherever she may be. And all the others I knew in various overlapping personal capacities at JNU, outside JNU, in different contexts. I'm speaking of Dr. Ritu Priya, whose parents lived on DU campus and were figures in the education department of Delhi University, who long ago did what I call baby snatched, an outspoken student of my own department, the Department of Sociology of the Delhi School, where I was located, and then she married him. Dr. Mohan Rao, whose elegance in thought and prose is utterly exceptional, as is his learning, and who's also been a stalwart of support in gender studies in the Indian environment, something that is a personal commitment of my own. And latterly, Professor Rama Baru, with whom I've had many and dense reactions in recent times, as well as so many others. But here I want to follow up on the previous speakers and condemned in particular two facets of the center's vision and work, which I have in the past and continue to find personally inspiring. The first is alluded to by Professor Arun Kumar, is interdisciplinarity, which bringing together a range of disciplines under one center. We have here graduates in medicine. They may be lapsed doctors, so to speak, sociology, anthropology, demography, psychology, economics, political economics, politics, history, statistics, public administration, a wide swathe across the social sciences. JNU, as was mentioned by other speakers, has been an institution which has been, administratively speaking, enabling of a interdisciplinarity, particularly in allowing students to elect for courses in other centers. I regret to say that I myself have also witnessed the subversion of this vision often enough by needless academic turf wars and new administrative arrangements that have gone with them. Second, I want to speak from personal experience as witness to an openness of some of members of this center recently to comparative studies. Here I'm alluding to personal interests of my own, but I believe that in the last 50 years, colleagues at this center have been engaged in speaking truth to power, in critical discourse analysis with reference to national policy making, but also perhaps even more so nowadays with reference to global health policy makings and the structures of power that generate and control it. As someone who's taken a lifetime academic interest in China and East Asia, I continue to mourn the fact that Indian social science writing remains within the realm of what one might call area studies, where we as Indian academics think we've done a good job if we contribute to global knowledge of India or South Asia as an area, and to mapping this into the global arena, as well as giving active policy advice to policymakers in this country. And we hardly ever look at other regions except the default West, which sets the terms of discourse in any case. We hardly ever look at the other regions in their own terms, in their own right, whether they are globally important in economic and political terms, or whether they are not. But anyhow, the result, in my opinion, is that India is conventionally mapped into various global league tables, so-called, of good or bad performance in this or that dimension, including, of course, and quite centrally, in public health and policy making. So one intervention that I've witnessed personally recently by members of this center, faculty members, that's given me great satisfaction has been, and is extremely exciting, has been their involvement individually and collectively with comparative India-China studies in an interest that has extended over more than 2 decades, as a matter of fact, beyond the obvious questions that arise from the two countries' respective geopolitical locations in the modern world, of which we hear plenty. This work in comparative social science, I feel, has had, or I have witnessed, has had a long history of more than 2 decades. And I was thinking in particular of a book produced from a seminar held in JNU, I think, and edited more than 20 years ago by Professor Alka Acharya of the School of International Studies, along with the iconic G.P. Deshpande, late G.P. Deshpande. The edited book was called Crossing a Bridge of Dreams, and it brought together Professor Rama Baru of this center and Professor Geeta Nambisan of the Zakir Hussain Center. Privately, we used to call them the Three Witches, and together they authored a most important chapter in the book on Crossing a Bridge of Dreams, which took the discourse on India-China comparative studies out of its location in the sheer geopolitical and international relations realm to something much more important to the human condition. Some of us believed, I may be misinformed, that the bonding between the three witches was a result of them having all three been hospital wardens on the JNU campus in their time. But whatever was the origin and whatever has happened, they had managed to bring a comparative social science perspective to the understanding of both India and China, as few others have done. Economics a bit, politics a bit more, sociology hardly at all, and so on. So this is something which one now sees, or I've personally witnessed, ongoing through the work of Dr. Madhurima Nandi, formerly a student of the center, and now others in a new Asia-Pacific project helmed by Dr. Rama Baru in conjunction with the Institute of Chinese Studies, Delhi. And we're seeing this initiative grow and flourish and take on new dimensions. I keep thinking personally, and hoping rather, that if only the other social science faculties and the arts and sciences too of JNU and of all other academic institutions of India could cultivate the same ecumenical, cosmopolitan sensitivity to not just supplying Indian data for others to manipulate and evaluate in global contexts or at home for making policies, but for something to the cause of social science thinking in an independent and particularly non-Western way. In conclusion, I treasure my personal and academic interactions with the Centre when I was faculty member in social systems and beyond that. And somehow I never forget the wonderful lunches in the sunshine and the conversations outside the canteen of SS2 after we of social systems and the Centre moved into the then new building. These were wonderful moments of academic exchange, personal solidarity across disciplines in our own little block. And it was an experience that I personally shall always treasure for the whole of my life. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak, and wish you another 50 years of active academic contribution to this country and to world social science in the field of health studies. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Oberoi, for sharing this morning with us. Thank you so much. Your words will stay with us for the coming 50 years that you've told us. Thank you so much. Before we move over to the next videos, I would request Neetu to call upon.
I would like to call upon Dr. Srinath Reddy and Professor Sangamitra Acharya to felicitate him.
Thank you so much, Professor Reddy, for being with us this morning, although you have a session to speak subsequently. We'll now move on to the next video clip we have for this session. Could I request the online team to be ready with the video?
Congratulations to the faculty of the Center for Social Medicine and Community Health for completing 50 years of its existence in the Jawaharlal Nehru University. One of the distinguished characters of the JNU, which made the university almost #1 within a shortest period of 30 to 40 years, is that it has some unique features. And among many other unique features like admission policy, the curriculum, the method of evaluation and examination, and other aspect, one of the unique aspects of the JNU is its interdisciplinary nature of teaching and research. We have universities like Calcutta, Madras, and Bombay, which are more than 150-year-old, but they have not achieved the levels the way JNU has achieved within 30, 40 years. JNU is, in fact, in my view, is a miracle. So one of the important features is interdisciplinary research, which we are now talking about, but JNU began in 1970. Some of the unique example of interdisciplinary research are, Center for Political Science, where we had deliberately a professor from sociology, political sociology, Imtiaz Ahmad. In Department of History, we had Satish Sabrawal, who was anthropologist, but with a historical research. My own Center for Study of Regional Development, is out and out interdisciplinary center, which has a MA program in geography, but an MPhil and PhD in economics, demography, urban geography. So I think this interdisciplinary research is a major and unique aspect of the university. And I think Center for Social Medicine and Community Health is a unique example that Dr. Banerjee and the faculty at that point of time could imagine the interdisciplinary aspect of the health. And they brought out a relationship between the society and social problem with the health. at that very point of time when the focus was only clinical aspect. So it goes to the credit of Dr. Banerjee and his friends who have started this center, wherein they have undertaken research and offered degree for last 50 years on the social dimension, social background of the health situation. And from the research that we have from the center, it is quite clear that they have brought a huge clarity and insight on the social aspect of health, how the poverty and malnutrition and hunger can cause diseases and health. So one of the prescription they continuously prescribe that yes, what is required is that we improve the level of living of the people, the health situation, the income, their intake, food intake, the basic amenities, and that itself is result into a significant improvement in the health. So in my view, this was a great imaginative effort on the part of the center. Center has taken a lot of research over a period of time, especially the release of the unit level data by National Sample Survey and of course NFHS survey. It enabled to examine the characteristics of the household, social, economic characteristics of the household, income, employment, poverty, and relate it with the health situation, morbidity, mortality, life expectancy, and other thing. So center's contribution is immense. Therefore, on this particular occasion, I really congratulate and express my appreciation for the research work that has been done. Particularly credit goes to the leader, Dr. B. Banerjee, who conceived this idea. I wish you all the best on this event of Golden Jubilee of the Center. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Thorat, for giving us the good wishes. We will try to take your compliments forward. And in doing so, as I hand over the session to my colleague, Professor Baru, to take what has been wished to us into the next 50 years, I really wish to bring on board my younger colleagues, as I've talked about my senior colleagues in the center. I'm sure it is the responsibility of the younger colleagues there, Professor Rajiv Dasgupta, Professor Ramila Bisht, Professor Sunita Reddy, Professor Kyan Kuite, followed by Dr. Prachin and Dr. Vikas. I think the onus on you is immense to take the desires which have been expressed on the podium further into the coming 50 years. Thank you very much for being here with us for this session. And I request Professor Ramabaru to come over for the next session, please.
Thank you very much. In this session, we have one speaker who is with us offline. The remaining are video clips. And this particular session is going to really be a series of reflections of various friends and collaborators over the last 50 years with the center. And so without any further ado, I'd like to request Dr. Srinath Reddy to come and share some of his reflections. You've interacted with us in very many capacities over many years, as a member of the Center Committee, as an evaluator of several PhD theses, and of course, as the former president of the Public Health Foundation of India. Dr. Reddy.
Doyens and devotees of public health and champions of social medicine. I've come here in person because I felt that it was my duty to respectfully pay my tribute to this institution, which has acted both as a teacher as well as conscience keeper of public health in this country. Dr. Ramabaru very graciously offered that I could do it
through a video clip, but I felt it incumbent that I must come in person to be part of this very momentous occasion when the center is celebrating its accomplishments and looking to the future in an increasingly complex scenario, both nationally and globally. Basically, I think this center came up at a very interesting time in history, not only of India, but of the world. In the 19th century, when the tools of scientific investigation were not as advanced as they became much later, especially in the second half of the 20th century, there was a far greater sensitivity and recognition of the social determinants of health. And of course, you had Rudolf Virchow leading that in a very effective analysis of not only what affected the Society of Prussia and Germany, but what was germane to the rest of the world as well. To quote Virchow, he said, "Do we not always find diseases of the populace traceable to defects in society? If disease is an expression of individual life under unfavorable circumstances, then epidemics must be indicative of mass disturbances. Indeed, he said they're indicative of mass disturbances of artificial culture, of how social stability is being disrupted by various artificial influences." And what he talked about in terms of unacceptable poverty in the context of the typhus outbreak in Upper Silesia is equally relevant today in terms of very many health inequalities that we recognize today. However, in the 20th century, the advances of science, laudable as they were, both in laboratory medicine as well as in clinical medicine, quickly brought about a euphoria that all medical problems and even public health problems could be tackled only through technological innovations and scientific tools, which are principally directed at the individual person and perhaps even the individual organ or subcellular structures. Without discounting the value of modern science in terms of understanding some of the pathways of disease causation, the fundamental drivers of disease and ill health became somewhat obscured as a result of this. And it is during that period that the center came up here in JNU to really bring about an understanding of the need for positioning the social determinants of health very clearly, centrally, in the context of any analysis of any health situation, whether in the country or globally. And despite many challenges which arose during that period, in terms of the whole world of medicine being taken up by what appeared to be a fascination with new ways of research, including the randomized controlled trials and the whole advent of evidence-based medicine, the fundamental importance of the social determinants of health was still highlighted with great emphasis and eloquence by the faculty of this particular center. I myself have not been a student of the center, but fortunately, because many of the publications of the center became part of the public domain, I can claim to be an Ekalavya educated also by the work of the faculty and the researchers of the center. But even in person, I had the privilege of being corrected on occasions when, having returned from training in clinical epidemiology, though it was actually not just clinical epidemiology. I was speaking of evidence-based medicine at a meeting in the Administrative Staff College of Hyderabad when Professor Imrana Khadir corrected me that evidence-based medicine is actually an erroneous concept being driven essentially to propagate randomized clinical control trials as the major way of discovering the solutions to public health problems as well as clinical medicine. And I fully recognize how important that particular lesson was. In the current times, when we are talking about complexity science, when we are talking about the importance of discarding linear models of analysis, because many of the problems require nonlinear approaches to understanding, when we are talking about the importance of the coalescence of multiple streams of knowledge to understand, elucidate, and certainly address various complex problems that we're dealing with, whether it is climate change or even a viral pandemic, then I think the lesson given by Professor Khadir at that time was so apt and remained with me. So as I said, I too have been, in a sense, a beneficiary of the center, though not having been a direct student. But now we are seeing very clearly that there is a much greater need to really look at the multiple determinants of health in unison as they interact with each other and influence health. And that is the importance of public health, where we have to really identify and influence the determinants of health which can ultimately impact upon the individual health. And here we recognize that even globally, the trends are changing. All the fascination with finding purely genetic markers as the causes of disease and genetic engineering as a solution faded away, despite Francis Collins declaring that with the elucidation of the human genome, all chronic diseases could be now solved. Now NIH is investing in epigenetics because they've realized that it is the social determinants of health and the environmental determinants of health which actually influence even genetic expression by upregulating or downregulating. I think, therefore, the importance of social medicine, or even bringing about that kind of an interdisciplinary understanding to complexity of various problems that confront us today, is an absolutely important element. And I'm sure, as a center which had been remarkably prescient in following that approach, it will continue to contribute to human knowledge and thereby to human welfare. Indeed, even in the area of digital health, I believe it's a very important element. But even there, one has to recognize that apart from dealing with digital inequities and digital divides, one has to really recognize how best it can be applied for community good, rather than necessarily for commercial profit. And that is where centers must play a very strong role in deciding how best it can actually be applied. Because when policymakers are trying to find easy solutions for complex problems of the health system, digital solutions or digital technologies can often be very seductive for those who are either lazy or disinterested in addressing the real problems. So while we must actually ensure that we do utilize the scientific technologies to the best of our ability, bringing in the social determinants of health and the community context becomes absolutely important. And there, the center can actually play a very important role. Indeed, I believe that increasingly, the role of the community has to be emphasized in finding solutions. And just as we have moved in clinical medicine to accepting that it has to change from physician-centric to a patient-centric or a person-centric model, we have to move from a governmental or an agency-driven model of public health to a community-centric model of public health, where the community actually has to be a very major player, and there again, community medicine has to become a very important element. So a people-partnered public health and a decentralized decision-making at district and sub-district levels with active engagement of the community will have to be the model that we have to pursue if we have to really address some of the health challenges of this country. And interdisciplinary integration of knowledge becomes absolutely pivotal in that context. And I hope as the center grows, it will not only support the growth of that kind of interdisciplinary approaches within the university, but will also partner with many other institutions across the country in order to foster that spirit of interdisciplinary inquiry and ensure that it is appropriately applied to multisectoral solutions. Knowledge has to be applied with impact, and that impact has to translate into equity. And we must recognize that there are multiple dimensions of equity which again need to be explored. As R.H. Tony said, it's not just equality of opportunity, but equality of circumstances that matter, and equality of circumstances are driven by the social determinants of health. And therefore, the Center for Social Medicine becomes a very important contributor to finding solutions in the future. And I look to your leadership, and I wish you the very best as you proceed into the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Reddy. We have video clips from collaborators, friends, and academics in public health from different parts of the world. We'll begin with a video clip from Dr. Sheila Zerbrig, who is located in Canada. And for all of you present here, you've read her work. Some of you probably were even taught by her when she came as a visiting professor to the center. So I request the team to please play Sheila's video. And actually, Sheila Zerbrig is online as well. And maybe she can add a few words at the end of the clip.
Good morning to you all, and thank you, Ritu, for your invitation to join in celebrating the Center's half-century of public health research, teaching, and advocacy. It is a great privilege to participate. It's also a personal pleasure stopping to ponder the Center's impact on one's own life and work trajectory. I first met Professor Banerjee in the late 1970s in his modest initial JNU office when much of the university was still under construction. During my years working with the village dyes of Ramnad district in Tamil Nadu, I had become aware of Dr. Banerjee's path-breaking work on domiciliary treatment of TB. So I was greatly heartened to hear of his role in shaping this new Center of Social Medicine and Community Health at JNU. That visit was when I first met Imrana as well, sitting on her modest front porch with infant Ishan in her arms, though I felt I had already met her on paper through her EPW and Medical Friends Circle writing. Together, it was thrilling to discover their work dedicated to addressing the barriers faced by the rural poor in accessing basic curative and preventive care. Their example and the ongoing work of the MFC remained an essential resource and inspiration for me. I returned to Canada in 1980 and soon found myself trying to transcribe village midwife Mina's haunting account of Raku's efforts to save the life of her infant child. Haunting because, of course, a recurring story, and thus a larger metaphor for the economic, class, and institutional barriers to good health faced by the rural landless. I am not a writer, So setting down on paper Mina's account was difficult. I remember often thinking of JNU and the writing efforts of the wider MFC collective. Somehow this helped push me to take that intimidating first step in the writing process. Ultimately, Raku's story led me to set aside clinical medicine to pursue the larger and largely lost history of human health, the role of staple food security in increasing and indeed tripling human life expectancy from its pre-modern historical levels of 20 to 25 years. 5 years of following monthly growth rates of Ramna district's young children had made hunger starkly visible. Its impact on their survival rates indelibly etched, and at its base, the primacy of economic disparity and conditions of women's work as daily wage agricultural laborers that precluded sufficient feeding of their children. Conditions brilliantly encapsulated in Mina's diagnosis of the child's death. No time and no pesa. Time placed astutely ahead even of dire poverty. So I couldn't help but be skeptical of the prevailing assumption within Western development literature that attributed post-1950 mortality decline in the developing world to modern medical techniques, preeminently DDT in malaria control. It simply did not ring true. In light of malaria's past prominence as a leading trigger of death in colonial India, it seemed its mortality history might offer some useful perspective for contemporary public health work. Several decades followed of my being submerged, I'm afraid, in the minutiae of historical analysis, documenting the relationship between acute hunger, semi or frank starvation, and malaria lethality in colonial Punjab. But what also became clear was that the once notorious malaria epidemics in Punjab plummeted after 1920 with the control of famine. 3 decades, in other words, before DDT's control of malaria transmission in the region. By the early 1920s, the growing nationalist movement had made the prevention of famine, rather than simply relief of established famine, prevention of famine, a political imperative. Abrupt control of malaria transmission in the mid-1950s with DDT had very limited discernible impact on crude death rate levels in the state, though chronic hunger, less extreme caloric insufficiency, remained endemic. In this sense, malaria appears to be exceptional in that greatly heightened lethality was linked mainly to acute hunger, in contrast to most viral and bacterial infectious diseases, where lethality generally is heightened by both. A caution. This brief window on malaria mortality history is not to suggest that access to antimalarials in the modern context is unimportant. Malaria infection carries an inherent mortality risk, especially falciparum malaria, even though it's a small fraction relative to its historical level. Assured access to treatment is essential. Indeed, it is that much more important for those for whom subsistence livelihood remains precarious. Those who can least afford livelihood losses accompany even brief periods of physical incapacity. In other words, healthcare cannot substitute for food security, but it is not either or. Both are essential. You know this. May I add a final personal point? Throughout these submerged years, I continued to be energized by the Center's expanding contemporary health analysis work. Your trenchant critiques of government family planning policies, the World Bank's 1993 Investing in Health report, the Violence Structural Adjustment, Public Health Care's capture by the private health insurance industry, the double burden of malnutrition. And this is only a fraction of your crucial work. I wish I could have kept closer in touch. Nevertheless, please know that your scholarship and unrelenting advocacy helped keep me going through these years, long years of research. In other words, there is a great deal for which I personally must thank you for. I'm very much looking forward to the day's commemoration and the center's courageous future. Thank you.
Sheila, if you're online, can you just unmute and show yourself to the audience? I don't know if she's... And can the audience sitting in the back please move forward? Thank you.
Yes, I am. Ramu, I am
hi,
here.
Sheila. Hi. We're happy to see you. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah. Thank you for this wonderful event. It means the world to me, and I'm sure to all of your students and to your country. So it's just a great honor and privilege to be part of this. So thank you. I do look forward to the center's future, your courageous future. So all my best wishes.
Thank you so much. The next video clip we have is of Professor R.K. Mutatkar, who is an anthropologist and has been a person who has been associated with the center from its inception. May I please request the video team to please play it?
Greetings and best wishes on the occasion of Golden Jubilee of the Center of Social Medicine and Community Health at the JNU. I feel privileged to pay my respects to Professor D. Banerjee and greet all the faculty members, with the majority of whom I had personal interactions and collaborations. Probably the first textbook on hygiene and public health by B.N. Ghosh in 1912 to its 14th edition in 1959 gave rise to preventive and social medicine in medical colleges. I was honored to be associated with PSM department with Armed Forces Medical College, Pune since 1963, followed by with BJ Medical College with Dr. N.S. Devdar till he passed away a couple of years before. But the center at the JNU is the first, and as part of School of Social Sciences has a different flavor of direct communication with the people, not through patients. I knew Professor D. Banerjee through Dr. N.H. Antia, who established Foundation for Research in Community Health. I knew Dr. Prabha Ramlingaswamy through Professor V. Ramlingaswamy and Dr. Sahu as an anthropologist. At the 12th International Leprosy Congress at Delhi in 1984, Dr. Banerjee and I were invited to deliver keynote address immediately after the inaugural function by President Jail Singh, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi with Mother Teresa. I was invited by Professor Mohan Rao to be a visiting professor for a month at the center, which paved the way for collaborative research with Professor Ritu Priya on Ayush in public health. It is through such interactions with the center that we could establish interdisciplinary School of Health Sciences at Savitribai Phule Pune University. The leadership that this center at JNU has given could be summarized with the last para from the summary chapter of the book by Professor D. Banerjee, Health and Family Planning Services in India, published in 1985. Let me read the sentences. In the present study, an alternative strategy has been suggested. Its central premises is to start with the people instead of fitting people within a predetermined framework of health services, to devise a framework designed and specially tailored to suit the requirements of the people. All the technological elements of the health services must be subordinated to the needs of the people. They should be in consonance with existing health behavior, health institutions, and healthcare delivery agencies in the community. They should also fit in well with the social and cultural setting so that available resources prove sufficient for the purpose. My greetings to the Center of Social Medicine to follow the advice of Professor D. Banerjee. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person is Professor Vicente Navarro. As you know, he's the editor and has been the long-standing editor of the International Journal of Health Services. Professor Banerjee was on the editorial board for many, many years, and we were very happy to have Vicente Navarro actually send us a clip. And please, can you play that now?
I'm delighted, very, very pleased indeed to have opportunity to not only say hello, but congratulate Professor Banerjee for what he has done in his life. He's a point of reference internationally, and that he is an admirable human being. I have known many people working in these areas in the international health, and that he is unique in many different aspects. And I'm delighted to have known him. I'm privileged to consider him as a friend. And in that respect, I'm adding my voice to that very, very deserved session that the organizers have set up these days. I have known him for a long time. As you might know, I have been editor until very recently of the International Journal of Health Services that offer a forum for critical thinking in the area of public health and health policy. And that from the many years ago, he always collaborated, and that many times I asked his opinion, and I always trust his judgment, and that there are the components that makes him so attractive as a scientist is his credibility. He goes always directly to the point. There's no possibility of getting it wrong. It's clear what he is saying. And the other thing, his courage. I think in order to be relevant, sometimes you need to tell the things as it is. And always you should tell it as it is. But with a clarity and a straightforwardness that characterize Banerjee's work. He does not mind to use even terms like fascism to define some of the opinions that are reproduced as in the conventional wisdom as sign of maturity and sign of rigor, which that is absolutely nonsense, when in reality some of these conventional wisdom advices are reproducing a system of enormous cruelty, of enormous inhumanity, and deserve to be called as Banerjee calls them. So in that respect, I appreciate so much for the task he has done. And many times he has written in the pages of our quarterly, and always when Banerjee writes, he pays attention and always creates an uproar within the establishment, but always with great sympathy for those who need that wisdom to their services. The situation today worldwide is quite clear. that the international order is not serving the populations in the world today. This international order is in a profound crisis that was predictable. People like Banerjee and others already predicted that those international organizations that enjoy the respectability of those who have power were part of the problem, not the solution. And Banerjee, I would say that quite clearly, straightforward. So in that sense, that is why it's so extremely important, the task that he has done. And that he always knows that he has friends, and that I'm honored to consider myself as one of them. So I think that it's very much deserved, this honor, and that if it's anything, way or form, that I could continue to contribute, I'll be delighted. I'll be delighted to continue to keep in that relationship, not only with him, of course, but also with the center. And I'm very, very glad that the center exists, because a lot of people benefit from. We are seeing now enormous crisis internationally, enormous crisis. In my more than 60 years, more than half a century work in these areas, I have never seen a crisis so accentuated like now. And that in that respect, now is the voice of those who have not had it for a long time, which are a majority of the world. So that international order, as they call it, creator of enormous disorder, pain, harm to the life and quality of life of the majority of the population, the popular classes primarily, are the victims of this international order in any country. So in that respect, and the awareness of that is becoming quite clear. And is that the voices like Banerjee from the very beginning and some voices of the International Social Service contribute to show what they are. That order is naked, is now seen for what it is. So in that respect, we have benefited enormously of having scholars, academics like Banerjee, and having created centers like the one he has done. So I would embrace Banerjee. We're physically there, and thank him face to face. Thank you. Thank you. It has been great to have you as a colleague and as a friend, and that your courage, your science, and your wisdom has contributed to the exposure of so much cruelty in the world, and has also very much helped in terms of presenting alternatives. And in that sense, your name merits a page in the history of this war. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. In this long journey of the Center of Social Medicine and Community Health, I think individual students, faculty have interacted with several social movements as well as organizations like the Medico Friends Circle. And today we have another short clip from Dr. Abhay Bhang, who I'll request the group to play. He, as you know, he is founder of Gadchiroli Search, and he's worked for many years in the grassroots movement. May I please have Abhay Bhang's video? Thank you.
48 years ago, in 1975, I first visited the Center for Social Medicine and Community Health at JNU. I was a young doctor, disillusioned with the high-tech tertiary care model of medical education at the PGI Chandigarh, where I was doing at that time my MD in medicine. I met Professor D. Banerjee, the then chairman of the center, to inquire about an educational program suitable for me. I wanted to practice community health, wanted to provide accessible, affordable healthcare to the people in rural areas. Will the center equip me for that? Professor Banerjee encouraged me and offered me a seat in the PhD program. I did not take it. Why? I wanted the capacity to deliver and innovate healthcare to the poor. The center, as Professor Banerjee told me, primarily believed and was engaged in political and social critiquing of healthcare policies. That did not match my aim. And yet Professor Banerjee and Professor Imrana were kind enough to engage with the medico friend circle that we had just started. They contributed to our thinking enormously. However, we wanted to work at the grassroots to build newer models of healthcare for the poor, while center probably thought that it was an immaturish action impulse, and center believed that the true people-oriented healthcare was not possible in the prevailing political and economic structure. We acknowledged the limitations, but didn't agree that worthy action cannot be done unless political economic system change first. The center intellectually and temperamentally appeared to believe in a sequential change model. Political economic change first, then only meaningful health work. We believed in a simultaneous change model, both going parallelly hand in hand together. The center, over the past 48 years, has provided us in the medico friend circle some thinking friends and co-travelers. Imrana was one, Binayak was another such example. I had always looked at the center as an intellectually sympathetic source, but wished that it walked more with us at the grassroots and in the actual problem solving. My humble gratitude and thanks to the center for what it did, and a friendly complaint for what it did not. I wish the center a fruitful, lively, effective second half century. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With these contributions, we will now break for tea, and following which we will have the screening of interviews with Dr. Banerjee and Dr. Kadir, which has been produced by students of this center. So please have tea and come back. Thank you so much.
Which was just growing, people were new, there was just too much excitement.
So if you go into the inner history, similarly, जैसे हम कह रहे थे जब हमको बोला जीपा सर ने कि we want to do postdoctoral work beyond doctorate in the center of social, मैंने कहा तो बहुत अच्छी बात, because that's what I was looking for. But then actually क्या हुआ? After some time in the School of Social Sciences, वो बोलने लगे भाई हमें तो मास्टर्स करना पड़ेगा, एमए करना पड़ेगा, कि नहीं तो काम नहीं बनता. स्कूल ऑफ लाइफ साइंसेस बोलता है we will teach our own student in MA, MSc. अरे तुमको तो हिंदुस्तान में काम करना है.
The content of this center are developed over time. So what I'm trying to say is that we were given with a mandate. Different centers made different things out of that mandate. Some were highly discipline oriented, some tried to do interdisciplinary work and had their own set of challenges. We were a small center to begin with. I'm sure we were seen with a lot of skepticism in the school. What are these people doing here? We were not social scientists, except for Professor Ramalingaswamy. Then over time, through interactions, through learning, we have managed to develop a set of courses. Now, the early courses were, I can now look back and say that, we were still very segmented. And we tried it on students, and a lot of learning and realizations came through time, through teaching. For example, what kind of social sciences are you going to teach? You can't teach anthropology, sociology, politics. You can't do that. So what is the meaning of being problem-oriented? So the first thing that we had to define is that within public health, how do you create a focus? And therefore the importance of epidemiology. The second thing we defined is that, okay, if these are the key problems which we want to address as priorities, then what kind of social sciences is required? So what will you draw from sociology? What will you draw from anthropology, from economics? Any discipline that you want to take on. And therefore the nature of courses changed. For example, I started teaching with nutrition. I'm sure in the beginning I was very biomedical because that's what I knew, that's what I could teach. But it's only through interaction with social scientists that the course transformed itself, because it could not talk of nutrition without relating to production processes, without relating to distribution processes, without relating to policy. And so then the whole thing of differentials within the nutrition status, and how come these differentials are coming, and so what is the social root? So you go into a whole set of concepts of caste, class, gender. So similarly in all kind of areas, the importance of understanding that you have to draw selectively from disciplines. And in the third stage, also understanding that social science itself needs to be integrated. You can't draw like this from here and there. And how do you integrate social sciences? So the importance of, having your perspective. How do you create an overarching perspective? And what is the philosophical binding between different concepts?
ये जो new grammar है, social sciences as a whole, and endogenously produced social sciences, not the American produced or the British produced. जो हमारे श्रीनिवासन साहब थे, श्रीनिवास, वो तो कैम्ब्रिज के थे, और कैम्ब्रिज में social anthropology, peculiar word, which is now in Delhi University, was to help the colonialist to know the colonial people so that to extract more. इसको कभी श्रीनिवास को समझ में आया? I saw him. Well, Banerjee, we are not in applied things. Srinivas was one of the most outstanding. So, yeah, I'm talking social sciences, but we can also talk of technology. क्या टेक्नोलॉजी हम लोग यूज कर रहे हैं. Our Prime Minister, every other technology हम यूज करेंगे. अरे करो यूनिवर्सिटी, nobody is saying no technology. But technology must be subordinate to the needs of our people. This question of a new grammar in public health. So when we do new grammar in public health, Dr. Subia, we are not ignoring almost PSM, preventive and social medicine. क्या क्या दूसरा नाम क्या community medicine. Someday Dr. Wig, the director of alumni, says इसको preventive and social medicine बोलो, इसको बोलो community medicine. Medicine become under the clinical look, and that is what we are having, today. Whole system of medical education, including MPH, including DTM. So, ये जो new grammar है is a new thinking.
If you talk of the positive things of the center, I think the projects that we did together, where the entire faculty was involved, where we interacted a lot with each other, contributed a lot to the growth of this process, because faculty interaction is a very important thing which we tried to develop. There is no end to it. It has to keep evolving. It will change, its forms will change, but it cannot be ignored. Because it's only through working together. If you in your own group work together, then your interaction with outside become better. So we were able to draw also from other centers like economics, Center for Social Systems, regional development. These are the centers which we started working with. Then science policy came in. Policy became an important part of studies here. One of the contributions, I think, of the center till that period was that a lot of institutions asked us to send us actually what courses are you teaching. And they build their own courses on the basis of that.
Because after Mahler, I think I have quoted in my autobiography, we learned from you. He was the chief of the WHO group in Bangalore. But he said that we want to learn from you. And that when Mahler went on to become the Director General of WHO, and Mahler and his group, not I, they thought of the Alma Mater Declaration on primary health care. They imbibed, they drew on the knowledge they had imbibed through our work in Bangalore. And Mahler has always admitted that. Admitted means not he respected the NTI, the sort of a thinking we followed. Although they were WHO people, so we said nothing to it. We are to depend on the data that we have. And where we produce data, what we call the social dimension of epidemiology. This is the very essence of interdisciplinary.
Personally, I believe that it was not a question of engaging with the Alma Mater process. I think we were a part of Alma. I'm sorry, I may sound a little this thing, but I think we were a part of the Alma Mater process. We were the initial forces which started talking in a different way. And of course, Professor Banerjee was there within WHO. He was a very influential force. And then the kind of work that the center was producing on primary health care, on the challenges
to which different people were writing and contributing.
Thank you. Even though Dr. Banerjee didn't speak this morning, his daughter told us that he wasn't ready to speak. We got a flavor of his zest in the interview. Thank you so much. So in the next segment, what we are going to do is listen to some of our superannuated colleagues, Dr. Ghansham Shah and Dr. Mohan Rao.
Yeah. Okay. Though I joined the center in 97, quite late in my academic career, but I was related with the center since the late 70s. Because one of my colleagues at Surat Center, sociologist Dipankar Gupta, joined the center sometimes in 97, 76 or 77. And during that period, we at the Surat were doing a study on tuberculosis and malaria, and we invited Professor Banerjee there. And during his stay, I had a very interesting interaction with him, particularly about the primary health and larger concern about it. And that also helped me to think largely and relate health with many other dimensions. And thereafter, my relation with the center continued in one way or another. I used to be an examiner for one or two PhD students. And when I did a study on the plague, Surat plague, I had no idea that one day I will full-time teach the public health. But by accidentally that happened, and thanks to Imrana and colleagues, they invited me there. During my 7, 8 years at the center, it was me a learning process. Learning process with the faculty, Imrana, Mohan, Ritupriya, Rama, and later Nair, and others, new faculty that came. And during my interaction with the students and that, during this period, I really re-examined the culture and contextualized it. I had some notion in which I did it in my book on plague, but I re-examined and reintegrated, and I would give a credit to my students, because the students now and that time also coming from a different disciplines. Not all were social scientists, but even social science, they were different disciplines, but also activists and that kind of a thing. And then inputs from the field work really helped me to broaden my perspective about the people's behavior, their priorities, and so on. The second thing that happened during that period was about the civil society. I began to interrogate civil society, and at that time the civil society was a new phase, and students working in different areas, in one way or another, were engaged with NGOs working in the health. That made me to rethink about it, the role of an importance of civil society in the present context. And during that period, I started rethinking and realized the civil society and culture, contextualized in a larger system. And that really helped me in the subsequent years. Last 20 years, I've done work on re-examining the culture and civil society. During my stay there, I realized and I consider the most important contribution that the center has done is that like the public health is just not obviously as a student of public health, we just don't talk about the healthcare. We go much beyond that. But during that thing, we sharpen it, and center has sharpened all along. And I believe we continue to do that. And that is very important with a social dimension, with a cultural dimension, relating local to the global. It's just not local area, but we don't ignore local diversions and diversification in the society, and also relate to the social and economic phenomena, and contextualize the public health with economic and political system. And when I say the political system, which includes the social system and the culture system, and the changing dimensions. For us, the culture is not a static. We don't essentialize culture. And that's what I think public health tells us, how the people's behavior change over a period of time. And to my opinion, this is the major contribution of the center in the public health overall. And I really cherish, and I and my wife very fondly cherish my days at the center, kind of a warmness that I received, kind of intellectual enrich in 8 years to rethink it and to go further. And therefore, I fondly remember all the colleagues in the last 20 years, and I am in contact with some of the colleagues in one way or another. Last I had in contact and participated with Rama on a WHO project, but also Ritu and others also. So in way, I'm not at there, but I'm still intellectually, emotionally feel that I'm still a part of the center. And I really thrilled when I was told about this function. I wanted to be there physically. But unfortunately, because of the limitations, I could not do it. So I really miss it, but I would be happy to participate virtually. Thank you.
Next, Professor Mohan Rao. Needs no further introduction.
Professor Ritupriya.
This meeting is being recorded.
Professor Rama Baru. Should I start from the beginning again?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. The chairperson, Professor Sangamitra Acharya, Professor Ritupriya, Professor Rama Baru, Dr. Prachin Gadodkar, and the wonderful student members of Team CSMCH. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of this historic occasion. I cannot be there personally as I'm visiting Bukhara and Samarkand, from where we were gifted the goddess Durga. She rode a lion there, but we had more tigers that she graciously took as her vahan when she came to us, although in Bengal she rides a lion. Let me begin with a poem. Could men but come awake, enchantments keep, their noblest faculties held fast in sleep, and frightful dreams and real fears, alas, before their soggy haunted vision pass, not least the Reverend Thomas Malthus, with his trick of killing conscience with arithmetic. This is a poem by James Macaulay. The Center of Social Medicine and Community Health has been almost my entire life. What can I say about it that is not portentous, pretentious, and is honest? I shall briefly reflect on what it meant personally. It was, of course, a unique creature in India where social sciences and public health melded so effortlessly, which created an unusual fraternity of scholars who could not say with confidence they were doctors without adding doctors with a difference. This is indeed what I was. How it came about is something to be investigated, written about. It was Zeitgeist. In the 1970s, there were calls for a new international economic order. The defeat of the USA in Vietnam in 1975 meant that Bangladesh could announce a new drug policy, despite Seventh Fleet ships being sent to make her withdraw this policy, which weakened the stranglehold of US multinationals. India had its own Hatti committee that did likewise. We also had the ICMR ICSSR Committee on Health for All. 1978 was the time of the Alma Ata Declaration, which promised something revolutionary in health. These were exciting times when anything seemed possible. I have written about these times in my contribution to Morbid Symptoms, Health Under Capitalism, edited by Leo Panich and Colin Lays, published by the Merlin Press, London in 2010. Having finished my MBBS from Bangalore Medical College, I did a residency in Manipal. This was a private hospital, but ethical and did not loot patients. But I soon began to see this hospital as a place for primitive accumulation of capital. I remember a patient I was in charge of. He was a young man with 2 children who owned some land, a Muslim. He came in with severe viral fever and during the course of his hospitalization developed cardiac arrhythmias. He needed a pacemaker, those days imported from Texas, with telegrams flying hither and thither. He had the pacemaker inserted, recovered, and went home. About a month later, at OPD, I saw his wife arrive, red-eyed, holding the pacemaker. Her husband had died and she wanted money back. Another patient I was in charge of was a young Brahmin woman in her early 20s with kidney failure. I talked to the mother and advised them to take her home, but they knew there was this thing called dialysis and they chose to go in for dialysis. After 2 weeks, I saw my patient's jewelry disappear. Another few weeks, I saw her mother's diamond earrings disappear. After 4 months of this, they announced they had no faith in allopathic medicine anymore and would try Ayurveda. This was, of course, one way of accepting death. We were constantly treating children with diarrhea and restoring them to an environment that bred diarrhea. What could health education do? Incidentally, I saw the RSS active in every village around Manipal at that time. Their efforts have borne fruit today. So I left Manipal, worked in a small hospital in Kerala, which I loved. I learned Malayalam effortlessly. I have resisted learning Hindi. I got to know wonderful medical people who belonged to a group called Christian Socialists who read Marx and Bible together. One friend there was Nalini Naik, who spoke to me about Imrana Kadir and the Center of Social Medicine and Community Health and MFC. Nalini was organizing fishermen then around Kerala. But Varikadawa was a hospital, a small rural one that worked beautifully and I was happy at, but could not be sustained. I then worked with several health and development projects in Kerala and Tamil Nadu, and hence landed the cushy Danida job. CSMCH opened a world I always longed for without realizing it, both intellectually and socially. Everything I have learned, taught, written came from CSMCH, GNU, and their wider interactions with the wider world. We were critical of imperialism and what it did to knowledge, but never of the West. We were aware that there was no homogeneous West that we had to reject, just as we were aware that the South was not inclusive and was not homogeneous. Our public health was informed by history, sociology, anthropology, feminism, and above all, political economy. It was always fascinating to interact with scholars from all these disciplines, which was why I loved being the seminar in charge when it was my turn. The list of scholars who are happy to come and talk to us is mind-boggling. I love the journal club, where we had all students and faculty attending to hear presentations of relevant papers from journals by students to comment upon and critique. This was intensely stimulating, sometimes leading to quarrels. Professor Uma Chakravarti once remarked about how she was astonished that our center foregrounded class, caste, and gender in all our discussions in health. Over the years, it seems CSMCH gathered friends who made it possible, and I would like to thank all of them on behalf of CSMCH. These include, among others, Betsy Hartman, Patricia Jeffrey, Roger Jeffrey, Bo Sachs, Sarah Hodges, and Sheila Zerbrig, with whom I taught a course, Hunger in History. Alaka Basu was with us, as were J. Devika and Dr. Sundar Raman. I'm not sure I remember everyone I would like to, and my apologies. During the 90s, lured by Professor Veena Majumdar, I worked a lot with women's groups on the issue of population policy. With IDWA, we filed a public interest litigation in the Supreme Court against the clinocrene sterilization of women in the country, obtaining a ban that had repercussions not just in India, but other countries. Later, with the Jan Swasthya Abhiyan, many of us have been involved with issues of health policy, so we went beyond the merely academic. I loved the research I did. I loved the preparation for classes. I loved the classes themselves. I loved my students and the challenges they posed. Above all, it was an arena of constant churning and learning, being open to new ideas, examining them critically, discussing them with colleagues in the center, and more often with those outside. So, lunch at the SS's canteen meant you learned so much of social sciences and India from Patricia Uberoy, Dipankar Gupta, and Zoya Hassan. We could always drop in at Prabhat Patnaik's room or Jayati Ghosh's room. Jayati and I supervised an MPhil dissertation together, and she was remarkably prompt in her responses. Another colleague that I co-supervised with was Niladri Bhattacharya. He too always came with chapter read and a big reading list for the student. I supervised a PhD thesis with Professor Rajiv Bhargav that is now a proud book. All this we saw as something entirely normal. At the SL canteen were born ideas of J.S. Cash. Anya Lumba and Aisha Kidwai were the movers and shakers there, with Rama Baru and Ritu Jared joining. It was indeed a different world, a world I cherished. I spent 34 years there, 31 on the faculty. I did the population growth and family planning section in course 601, a foundational course in the center. I also regularly taught courses on the political economy of health and the population question in India. The former course in particular has gone on to influence the research of many of my students. I have supervised 20 PhD theses of varied themes, too few of them out as books, even as I continue to nag my former students. The CSMCH provided me space to pursue my academic interests in history. I drafted a course for doctors, History and Disease. It was approved by the course. I also wanted to do something on literature and health, but never got down to it, partly because Professor Meenakshi Mukherjee at the Center of English and Linguistics, where I wanted to register for an MPhil, said, "You have a PhD, you can contribute to the nation. Don't waste your time with an MPhil in our center." Sage advice, I suppose. I'm saying all this now to show the kind of academic freedoms we had to explore, to think, and grow. CSMCH and above all her students shaped me, made me what I am, faults included. I hope I also shaped CSMCH and her students in whatever small way. I'm infinitely grateful that I got the opportunity to work in this uniquely beautiful and stimulating space, despite all the challenges. It is something I shall always treasure. I could not have had a happier life. What we did is not to allow conscience to be killed by arithmetic in public health, as is so often is. Thank you.
Friends, the next segment in this long journey of CSMCH, we have made many friends, but we've also lost friends and colleagues. This segment will remember the departed faculty, alumni, as well as collaborators. So as we have gathered to mark the 50th year of the center, we take this moment to remember colleagues, students, and collaborators who have contributed to the growth of the center. Our colleague, Dr. Prabha Ramalingaswamy, whom you've all heard mentioned today, was among the first to form the team that set up the Center of Social Medicine and Community Health. She was a psychologist by training, and she was the only social scientist among the two medical faculty in the center. And she joined the center in the 70s and she passed away in the early 90s. So we take this moment to remember Dr. Prabha Ramlingaswamy, and some of her students are here. Dr. Prakashama was her first PhD student. And we take this moment to remember her for her kindness and her generosity with all of us as we were students of hers. Our second colleague, Dr. S.K. Sahu, was an anthropologist. He was an alumnus of the center. He completed his PhD with Dr. Banerjee, and all of you have probably read his work on the Orowns and the concept of health culture. He unfortunately died in a tragic railway accident, and we therefore lost him in the center. Among our alumni, we lost Krishna Soman, who did her doctoral degree under the supervision of Dr. Imrana Khadir, and who has written extensively, who has published a book. And in fact, when I messaged her husband, Soman, he shared with me a latest book which has been published by the IDSK, where she was, by her colleagues, where the book is dedicated to Krishna. Then there was Ruma Bhomvik, who was also our alumni, who actually was a student of mine, and Urmila Bodkar, who lost her life to cancer after she completed her MPhil in this center. Among the various collaborators, the project with the European Union on health sector reforms was Dr. Dulita Fernando from Sri Lanka. She was a professor of community medicine, and she also passed away very recently, and that's a photograph of her that has been shown. Last but not least, we would like to take this occasion to pay our respects to the memory of Dr. Zafrullah Chaudhry, who passed away day before yesterday. He was an icon of self-reliance in public health from Bangladesh. Dr. Chaudhry will be remembered for his important role in crafting the drug policy in Bangladesh that challenged the dominance of multinational corporations. He advocated for self-reliance and came up with this idea of the list of essential drugs. In fact, that was a very exciting period in the history of public health. The networks that formed from Dr. Bible in Sri Lanka to Dr. Zafrullah Chaudhry to the All India Drug Action Network. So there was a huge momentum of that interactions, which was not restricted to drug policy alone, but the whole idea of engaging with people, communities, and in fact contributing, and like Imrana said, becoming a part of the Alma Ata process. So this was really the heady period of the 1970s, which I think we are very much a part of as a center. It is also, with Dr. Zafrullah's passing away, it also reminds us the role of several civil society engagements. And you heard a bit of that from Dr. Abhay Bang in his video. And many of them went to become practitioners of community health in different parts of South Asia and India. So the generation of the 1970s, as I see it, also laid the foundation of the People's Health Movement in South Asia, and of course, which became global. And there we have a photograph of a very interesting moment with Dr. Iqbal of the Kerala Shastra Sahitya Parishad, Dr. Banerjee, and Dr. Zafrullah Chaudhry under the banner of the Voluntary Health Association of India, which was a different Voluntary Health Association of India from what it is today. So I request everyone to observe a minute of silence. I'm so sorry. And I'm sorry for overlooking that. Dr. Alpana Sagar, who was with us as a colleague and who also succumbed to cancer. And she was a great inspiration for the kind of work she did and the kind of engagement she had with students. It was amazing. She was passionate and she never spared any of her energies, even when she was in hospital. And I remember when I visited her, she said, I really miss the students. I really miss the class. I'm sorry about overlooking that. So I'd like to request everyone to maintain a minute of silence as we remember all those who've passed away and to the icons of public health. Thank you. I now request my colleague Sunita Reddy to please come over.
I would like to inform you all that there are books outside on the counter which are published by our esteemed professors like Professor Imrana Kadir. If you want, you can have a look, and if you want to take anything, you can take it after this session. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here and sharing this session. I'm sure all those who are online are also able to see the videos of our esteemed faculty who were present earlier. In this session, I will be talking about and introducing some of our collaborators and also eminent experts, scholars, academicians, and activist friends who were either visiting faculty or research collaborators with the center at different points of time. The journey of CSMCH cannot be completed without the collaboration of our guests. So I'll start with the video recording of Professor C.A.K. Yasudian, who's been ex-professor, Health System Studies, Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Mumbai. He's working in the field of health policy and systems research and training for the last 40 years. And all these videos are just 2 or 3 minutes long. I'm sure you're all going to enjoy their journey with CSMCH.
Glad to note Center of Social Medicine and Community Health is celebrating its 50th Golden Jubilee. At this juncture, my memory goes back to my mid and late 20s. I came to Tata Institute of Social Sciences from Madras at that time. Now it is Chennai, in Mumbai. And after my pre-doctoral work, I was interested in working in the field of community health, especially related to urban poor. So I was meeting some of the stalwarts who work in community health. At that juncture, I had a great privilege to get in touch with this center, especially with the head of the center, Dr. D. Banerjee, expert and doyen in this field. And I always wonder, I was so young, but he spent so much time with me discussing concepts. Immediately after the emergency, post-emergency, when community health volunteer scheme was introduced, he used to discuss with me what is community participation, and he's very passionate about these concepts. And 1978, when Almata Declaration came, he used to discuss with me that comprehensive healthcare versus selective healthcare, and he's a great inspiration. And in that sense, I gained a lot from him through this particular center. When I joined in 1979 as a faculty in TISS, I continued to interact with this center with Dr. Banerjee, and he was a great inspiration to develop the Department of Health Services Studies, though it was different from the center in JNU, but the fundamentals are the same. And after him, there are other faculty members who were in the center. They continued to interact with me and the Department of Health Services Studies. People like Professor Imran Akadev, Dr. Ritu, Professor Ramabaru, they have served in academic council and advisory committee related to Department of Health Services Studies, which became School of Health System Studies later. And also the center has contributed few young faculty members to the Department of Health Services Studies. People like Professor Ramila Bish, Dr. Nakiran, Dr. Narendra Kapde, who have joined the Department of Health Service Studies and served, and some of them are left also. So we continue to have very great interaction with the center. Now I am retired, and still I really look back and see my younger days, how the inspiration came from this center to do my PhD as well as to develop the health sector at the TISS. Thank you.
Thank you to Professor Yasudian for recording and sending to us. Now, I would like to introduce Professor Betsy Hartman. She is a Professor Emerita of Development Studies, Hampshire College, Massachusetts. She did her BA in Yale University and PhD from London School of Economics. Her research, writing, and lecturing focus on intersections between population, migration, and environment. And now, currently, she is working on novel about opiate crisis and war on drugs. Video, please.
Congratulations to the Center on the celebration of its 50 years of service to JNU, India and South Asia, and the rest of the world. My name is Betsy Hartman, and I have had the great honor and pleasure of a long association with the Center. Twice I have been a visiting scholar there, and the work of Center colleagues and students has deeply influenced my work on population and health policy over many years. The Center's critical approach to the political economy of public health, its attention to inequalities of gender, caste, ethnicity, and class, and excellent policy-oriented research make it a model of how scholarship can truly serve human needs and human rights. I am very grateful not only for the inspiring work of my colleagues there, but for the warmth, friendship, and support they have generously given me, again, over many years. Thank you so much, and congratulations.
Thank you, Professor Betsy, for your interesting observations and joining us through your video clip. Now I would like to play the clip of Professor Darshan Shankar. He has been founder, Transdisciplinary University. Earlier it was FRLHT, that is Foundation for Revitalization of Local Health Traditions in Bangalore. He was awarded the Padma Shri by the Government of India. His core contributions have been in the field of educational innovations, and he's been awarded Commonwealth Award in 1976 for the best program for Commonwealth for linking university education to community needs.
I'm very happy that The Center for Social Medicine and Community Health in the Jawaharlal Nehru University is celebrating its 50th year of creative work, creative research and education. I know some of the faculty that is involved with this center. I knew people like Professor Banerjee, and I know some of the staff of the center like Ritu Priya and others. And my impression is that this is a center that has been engaged in pioneering work. Social medicine and community health, as the name suggests, is already a new dimension of healthcare. I mean, normally one only focuses on conventional mainstream medicine. But social medicine, community health, these are very progressive directions. And moreover, to look at both social medicine and community health not as fields in which one needs to impose something, but as fields in which one needs to discover. The cultural roots of healthcare within the communities, to examine them with empathy and to investigate their contemporary relevance, to build upon the so-called community knowledge or people science that is already there in the community. This is certainly an extremely realistic and important approach. My best wishes to the center for deepening its work and for many more creative development in the decades ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Darshan Shankar, for pointing out the unique name we have for the center and the perspective from which we all work. Now, we'll play the clip of Dr. Anant Phadke from Sathi Sehat, Pune. He's a senior health activist and member of Medico Friend Circle and Jan Swasthya Abhiyan, which works for the community and public health issues where a lot of our colleagues and students are collaborating.
Accept my heartiest congratulations for completing 50 years and my best wishes for future journey. I was introduced to the center through the MFC meetings in which Dr. Imrana Kadir and then Dr. Ritu Priya introduced me and many others in the Medico Friend Circle to the center. What impressed me very much was number one, theoretical clarity and conceptual clarity, along with a very keen concern for the grassroots level people. And for the center, grassroots level people are not only objects of data, but live human beings with their thoughts and emotions and aspirations. And therefore, actually, I was able to dialogue with the center, learn from the center, because these particular features of the center, which I did not find very much outside the center, which attracted me very much. And of course, there was the inspiring work of Dr. D. Banerjee on tuberculosis control, or the very incisive work and commentary by Professor Imrana Qadir on India's population policy, and so many other dimensions of health that were introduced to me by the center. And I was fortunate to have a detailed dialogue with Dr. Banerjee, and all his advices, his experiences were really very inspiring for us. What is most important is that the whole issue of primary health care, the whole perspective of Alma-Ata Declaration is very nicely and organically interwoven in the analysis of various public health experts in the center. And for people like me who do not belong to the community of academic community of public health in India, this for us center is the North Star, because at one level amongst medicos, amongst doctors, public health is looked down upon, whereas for newer generation of some certain kind of experts, public health basically becomes some kind of social engineering. Whereas the center has continued with classical tradition where health is part of a broader social economic process and is central to the lives of the people. There are so many things that I learned from the center, and it was such a good experience to be able to dialogue with experts for persons like me who do not come from an academic background in public health. So I very much hope that the center will continue its good work. Generations of students and generation of health workers like me have benefited, and I hope that the center will continue to be guide to people like us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nanan, for sharing your association with the center and your fond memories. Next, I would like to play Dr. Jack Leroy, an independent psychiatrist, psychotherapist working in the field of global mental health for implementation of innovative programs on community-based mental health in low-resource countries, especially Africa. He's been associated with the center.
Hello, my name is Jacques Leroy. I'm a psychiatrist, mental health consultant. I'm very happy to say some words at the occasion of your jubilee. I want to thank Jubilee for all the cooperation we have been doing 20 years ago during 5 years. And I want to thank especially Imrana Qadir, Ritupriya, Rama Baru, and Nayar. Let me summarize a bit some of the projects we have been doing. In 1999, Imrana Qadir participated in an international conference in Maastricht in the Netherlands, which Kasturi Sen and myself organized. The theme was Health Systems and Social Development, an Alternative Paradigm in Health Systems Research. The aim was to transcend the classical methods of analyzing health systems by focusing on interdisciplinary and integrative approaches. Imrana took the lead substantively and setting out a path that we developed further in the subsequent projects. In 2000, we won a 4-year research funding for a concerted action funded by the EC with 7 South Asian and 3 European institutes in the public health research domain. It was called Monitoring Shifts in Health Sector Policies in South Asia. We used a comparative approach to map the impact of structural adjustment policies on health in all these countries. We finalized this research at a major multi-day conference in Colombo 2004 in which several researchers of each of the 7 centers presented their research work. Additionally, in 2002, we organized a workshop together, which was coordinated by Ritu Priya and Rama Baru and Anil Bhattarai and myself, to give junior researchers more possibilities to develop their research skills on health systems. This workshop was held in Kathmandu. Now, unfortunately, we could not continue because lacking funds, of course. Myself, in my work as a mental health consultant, I continue to work both in sub-Saharan Africa and Europe on developing community mental health services. I really want to thank the GNU for all the time we have been spending together. I continue to support the shift from a biomedical to a more community-based model, and the critical lessons I learned from GNU have been still accompanying me all the time during these years. I thank you very much, and may your institute continue to grow and to flourish. Goodbye. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Roy, for sharing your research collaborations and participation in conferences with our colleagues. Now we play Professor Mary Poveslow's video. She's a professor at Tampere University, Finland, teaching global health and development. Her expertise is in global and transnational health and social policy, trade and global governance for health.
I would like to congratulate the Center for the first 50 years, and let's hope the next will be even better. For those who don't know me, I'm Meri Koivusalo, and I'm currently a professor of global public health in Tampere University in Finland. I visited first the center in 1988, and then later in the early 90s, and the EU seminar and collaboration, which started from the GNU seminar in the late 1990s. This may have been a kind of a new process for the university and for the center, but it was also a new process for us in Finland, and it was actually the first institutional collaboration between Finland and India in the area of health, I later found out. And I'm glad that this year we have managed to initiate the cooperation again through Erasmus Exchange, and do look forward to further research cooperation with the center. It's been a pleasure to work with you, and I've enjoyed the learning and research collaboration. And I do hope that it will continue, as I'm now based in a similar research environment as public health scholar, based in social sciences faculty. It's a quite rare arrangement, and I'm glad I have met you, who managed this already for 50 years. And in a world with increasing social inequalities and challenges for health systems and social determinants of health, it will be so important to have this work running for years to come. So I really wish all the best for the future of the center. Thanks.
Thank you, Professor Mary. Her association with the center has been there for almost 3 decades, and currently she visited the center and interacted with faculty and students. Now we'll listen to Dr. Prabir Chatterjee. He's Executive Director, retired, from State Health Resource Center, Chhattisgarh, an active member of Medico Friends Circle.
Greetings to the JNU Center for Social Medicine and Community Health. And our biggest thing, I think, is that it talks about social medicine. It has studied social medicine from the time of Debabar Banerjee. Imrana Kadir was one of the early researchers there, and I came across them as a student through the MFC bulletin, basically in the 80s. I was fortunate to meet Binayak and to meet Ritupriya, and this was in connection with Daldi Rajara itself, which I managed to visit, the Bhopal gas Kand, and the research after Bhopal gas Kand. where both of them were involved. Then in Kaladi, there was a meeting on traditional nutrition, which Ritu attended. And of course, we came across people like Ritu and the JNU people in the discussions on vaccine policy. Later in life, I was at the State Health Resource Center for around 6 years. And there I came into touch with Dr. Sundaraman, with Rajiv Das Gupta, and with Ritu Priya also. Both of them were governing body of State Health Resource Center at that time in Chhattisgarh. Ramabaru visited. Prachin had actually been at MFCs, but we came across him again while we were at SHRC, and we had the good fortune to work with them at that time. Other than being a center for social medicine, which is something different, I don't think in India we really have anybody else who has studied social medicine as such, though we have a subject of community medicine. Community health is another place where serious research has not been common. A lot of NGOs do work in community health. I really think we're more interested in community health than in community medicine. And I came across much younger people like Lakshmi Kutty, Mohit, not that young, Amitabh, who's now in Calcutta, and one of our staff from SHRC, Kamlesh Mandaria, who had the good fortune to go and work at JNU. And so I think we are so happy that it's reached 50 years and it has contributed so much to public health in India, but really to social medicine and to community health. Thank you and greetings to everybody today.
Thank you, Dr. Prabir, and indeed his memory for remembering all the names, and the difference between the medical and the social science aspects of community medicine very well praised. Next, we'll listen to Dr. Neil Reams, Associate Professor at the Department of History and Classical Studies, Aarhus University, Denmark.
Many congratulations to the Center for Social Medicine and Community Health from Aarhus University in Denmark. The center is a very special institution set up in 1971 to accelerate a paradigm shift in the understanding of public health and set up outside a medical college. Having benefited from the hospitality at the center several times, I can really testify that the center is a special place and also an important place. As an historian of international and global health, I tend to view the center from the past. I feel I know quite a lot about its prehistory. I think of the establishment of the center as a milestone in the long history of a distinct Indian tradition of social medicine and community health, which goes back to at least the pre-independence National Planning Committee, continued with the report of the Board Committee, and found a significant expression in the design of the National Tuberculosis Program in Bangalore around 1960. Here, future chair of the center, Professor Debaba Banerjee, interacted creatively with future WHO Director General Halfdan Mahler, who happened to be born 40 kilometers from where I sit. And I'm convinced that Mahler took a lot with him from India in general and from Banerjee in particular. Mahler used the lessons learned from India and Banerjee when he promoted the vision of primary healthcare in the 1970s. In 2007, Mahler emailed Banerjee expressing his gratitude towards him. I quote, "You still have many years to bless your pupils, and I'm proud to be one of these," end of quote. This quote testifies, I think, to the position of the Center for Social Medicine and Community Health as a lighthouse institution in the global history of community health. Once again, many congratulations on the 50 years.
Thank you, Dr. Neil, for your best wishes and sharing your views. Now we'll watch Mr. Amulya Nidhi, founder, co-convener Swasthya Adhikar Manch and Silicosis Peedit Sangh, currently national co-convener of People's Health Movement India from Jan Swasthya Abhiyan.
सेंटर फॉर सोशल मेडिसिन एंड कम्युनिटी हेल्थ के 50 साल पूरे होने पे सेंटर के सभी फैकल्टीज़, स्टूडेंट्स और एलुमनाइज को बहुत बहुत बधाई और आने वाले भविष्य के लिए ढेर सारी शुभकामनाएं। इस सेंटर ने इस देश में पब्लिक हेल्थ के इश्यूज़ पे काफ़ी सारे काम किए हैं, न सिर्फ एकेडमिक ट्रेनिंग्स की है बल्कि एकेडमिक रिसर्च और एज वेल एज पब्लिक हेल्थ सिस्टम, पब्लिक हेल्थ के जो पूरी अप्रोचेज़ हैं, उसके स्ट्रैटेजीज़ हैं, उसके पॉलिसीज़ हैं, उसको भी प्रो पीपल बनाने में, उसको कंट्रीब्यूट करने में, बहुत सारे स्टेट लेवल के प्रोग्राम्स को सेव करने में, उसको स्ट्रेंथन करने में सेंटर्स के फैकल्टीज़, एलुमनाइज का काफ़ी रोल रहा है, काफ़ी भूमिका रही है। मेरा एसोसिएशन सेंटर के साथ जन स्वास्थ्य अभियान के फाउंडेशन से रहा है। सन 2000 में जब जन स्वास्थ्य अभियान बनी थी, उस समय से सेंटर्स के फैकल्टीज़ के साथ और एलुमनाइज के साथ मेरे इंटरेक्शंस रहे हैं और हमने देखा है कि हेल्थ मूवमेंट को भी स्ट्रेंथन करने में सेंटर की काफ़ी भूमिका रही है। वाइल इंटरेक्टिंग, मैंने JNU के सेंटर्स के साथ, स्टूडेंट्स के साथ इंटरेक्ट किया है। इंटरेक्ट करने के साथ साथ काफ़ी सारे एलुमनाइज के साथ हमने अलग अलग लेवल पे प्रोग्राम्स जो हुए हैं उसमें भी एसोसिएशंस रहा है। हमने देखा है कि काफ़ी सारा जो ग्राउंड लेवल के जो एक्टिविस्ट हैं, ग्राउंड लेवल के जो स्ट्रगल्स हैं, जो प्रोग्राम्स हैं, जो काम कर रहे हैं, उनमें सेंटर्स के एलुमनाइज और स्टूडेंट्स ने फिर काफ़ी कंट्रीब्यूट किया है। एज सेंटर्स की भूमिका देश में इस वक्त में हेल्थ सिनेरियो में काफ़ी ज़्यादा है और मुझे लगता है कि देश के अलग अलग हिस्सों में भी इस सेंटर्स के ज़्यादा ब्रांचेस खोलने चाहिए और ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा एकेडमिक जो भूमिका है, जो एक्शन रिसर्च की भूमिका है, उसमें सेंटर को और महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका निभानी चाहिए। सेंटर्स के जो काफ़ी एलुमनाइज और फैकल्टीज़ के जो आर्टिकल्स हैं, जो उनके राइटिंग्स हैं और जो उनके वेरियस डिस्कशंस जो उन्होंने अलग अलग वर्कशॉप्स और सेमिनार्स और प्रोग्राम्स में किए हैं, उससे हेल्थ एक्टिविस्टों को इस देश में और हेल्थ के इश्यूज़ पे जो लोग कार्य कर रहे हैं, उनको काफ़ी कंट्रीब्यूशन उनमें मिला है और उनको काफ़ी महत्वपूर्ण उनका योगदान रहा है और उनको उससे सपोर्ट भी मिला है। और मैं चाहता हूँ कि ये सेंटर्स आगे इसी तरीके के जो एसोसिएशंस है वो बना रहे और प्राइमरी हेल्थ केयर पे और यूनिवर्सल हेल्थ केयर के सिस्टम को स्ट्रेंथन करने में सेंटर भूमिका लगातार निभाते हैं।
Thank you so much, Mr. Amulya, for sharing your views and also the contribution of the CSMCH to the health professionals in the country. I really appreciate all the scholars who have video recorded their views, their perceptions, and also their sharing of their experiences with the community and our center, and taking out time to do the recording. So we really appreciate. And before we break for lunch, I would like to invite Professor Ritu to make few announcements for the next sessions and also the evening program. Since all of you have come from various parts of the country, I would suggest that you all take out time, relax and make your day memorable because all of you are here. So please don't go away. We have evening tea and dinner, and you are most welcome to even call your friends for the dinner who is around. So I hand it over to Professor Ritupriya.
Hey, good afternoon. Just to actually say this to those who are online, and we were supposed to start the afternoon panel discussion at 2, but since, as you can see, we are running an hour late and we're just going to break for lunch, you'll have to bear with us till we have our lunch and come back. So how much time do you think we're going to take for lunch? Can you get back in half an hour, those in the hall? Or can we take 45 minutes? Or do you want the full hour? 45 minutes, will that do? Okay, so then can we say that we'll be back at 2:45, and those online will then have to, at this point in any case, what we have is a different link for the afternoon. So you'll have to log out of this present link, give us 25 minutes for lunch, and then at India time 2:45, log back with the second link that we have given you, the second Zoom link, and then we should be on by 2:45 for the panel discussion. Thanks. Hope you can have whatever your time is accordingly your meals and so on, and rest from this long morning that we've had. And I hope you've enjoyed it all. Thanks. Let's all break for lunch and come back quickly.